Okay, thank you for joining us for the Superintendent Search for Cincinnati Public Schools Student Committee Panel. The first thing we will do is read some closed captioning instructions for you. If you're looking for closed captioning, please click the settings icon, which is a gear located at the bottom right corner of your screen. You can then turn on the CC, and you can choose your language if you are looking for translation in another language. Thank you, candidate. We are also informed to let you know that you have 10 questions, and they're asking that you keep it at 3 minutes per question to open up for questions and answers at the end. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, students, please meet Miss Tiane Amat. Tiane, it's good to see you again. Great to connect with you this morning. So I'm going to turn it over to Kylie Bridgeman, who is our student facilitator, who will walk you through the next step of the process.
Thank you, Kathleen. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Kylie Bridgeman. I'm the senior class president at Walnut Hills High School, and I welcome you to the student interview panel. We believe student voice has a monumental place in this process, and we thank you for taking this time with us today. Today's interview will be live streamed to the public so that they can participate in our conversation. We ask that you keep your answers to 3 minutes or less for each question so we can make time for each question we intend to ask. Again, thank you for this time, and we look forward to spending time with you this morning. Thank you.
Okay, and Seth is going to share a little bit about the process for planning and the design of questions that all came directly from students.
Hello, my name is Seth Copins. I'm a junior at SCPA, and for this planning session, we all met together on Zoom, and we discussed the topics that were important to us. We talked about COVID regulations, we talked about dress codes, we talked about staffing shortages, and so all of the questions that you'll be hearing are all formulated from us. We discussed them over many times, and we just actually got done discussing them for like the past hour. So all of these questions represent our beliefs and our values as students of CPS.
All right, Seth, thank you so much for that. And Ashley Carlin is going to be our facilitator for the questions. So can't wait to hear what you've got to say.
Hi, I'm Ashley Carlin. I'm a senior at SCPA. Today we are honored to have the chance to interview you. So we have a few questions to go. I'll be asking the first question. So, knowing what you do about our district, why do you want to be superintendent of CPS? Is this a stepping stone role for you, or do you intend to stay?
Great question. Thank you for that question. No, I'm very direct. No, it's not a stepping stone. I live in Cincinnati. I love Cincinnati, and I continue to stay here. I have chosen to work in CPS. I started as a teacher at Rockdale Academy, serving the Evanston community. I also was the principal of Hyde Park, who served Hyde Park, Oakley, and Evanston. I have great fortune to serve as the interim superintendent, and before that, deputy superintendent, to serve the entire district. I have been here over a decade. I've been in education for over 20 years. I see the potential. I am committed to the students and the families of CPS. So it is a clear choice that I want to be here, and I'm going to stay here. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today, Ms. Amat. So our second question is, do you think that the current guidelines CPS has to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 require revision due to the recent staff shortages and student absences resulting in infection in recent weeks, including the potential of a future student vaccine mandate?
I didn't hear, I heard the description, but what was the question part of it?
Sorry, so we're just wondering, do you feel like the current guidelines CPS has to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 need to be edited, potentially featuring a student vaccine mandate?
Thank you. This is ongoing. We don't have an end point, right? Because we are currently in the pandemic. So what we do, because we're educators, we lean on resources. We have partnerships with Children's Hospital and the health department. So we work together and collaborate with our community to make those decisions. So we made decisions just recently, right? When we came back from break, there was a large community spread. It impacted our staff. So we had a shortage of staff. So we had to go remote. We knew it was important to get back into in person. We put things in place to ensure that, as far as upping our recruiting opportunities. And then from there, we were able to come back. We want to make sure that our environment is safe for our students and our staff. And because we are still in the pandemic, we have to be agile. And we have to work with our community members to make those ongoing decisions. So thank you for that question.
Hi, Miss Tiane. I love how you express yourself. Your shoes, your scarf, your hair.
Thank you so much.
In your opinion, how can student expression be elevated within our education system? And how will you encourage students to embrace and express their individuality? Speaking on that, what is your stance on the student dress code?
I think creativity and dress is a part of that. I think the ability to express yourself is important. As a district, we have to provide opportunities to allow for those conversations and that innovation to take place. Some of the starting points we did was speak up and speak out. So now we have that at all of our schools. We are trying to expand a lot of our student programs after school. Specifically to dress code, it's based on, it's something called site-based management. So at each of our 67 schools, there is an ILT, an instructional leadership team, and there is a LSDMC, local school decision-making committee. Through that process, you have representatives. There should be student representatives at your high school, so find out who your representative is. There are community representatives and staff representatives to have that conversation around dress code. So each of our communities are very different, right? So having the ability as a community to set guidelines for our school is important. So again, I definitely believe that students should have the opportunity to be expressive, creative in the form of fashion, in the form of learning, and moving from student-centered decision-making to student-driven. So you can have a voice, but if you can't act upon it, what's the use? You might as well be silent. We have to also have opportunities for you to co-create with the adults who are here to serve you. I am here to serve you. So finding those opportunities to do that, coming to the table to have discussion from our 67 schools of how do we want to proceed in our dress code. But thank you for that question.
The next question is, from your perspective, what is your plan for diversifying student curriculum as well as staff?
Thank you, Simone. That's a great question. I was one of the first panel speakers for Speak Up and Speak Out 2 years ago. And I was there with another guest. And what I heard from the students over and over again was representation. We want to see curriculum, instruction based on stories, narratives, materials that represent us. So that's what we did. We formed committees as we do our curriculum adoption to make sure curriculum is diverse and inclusive. We also, because there's not going to be one particular material to have all the materials and the diversity that we need. So we also formed a committee where we have supplemental text to help with those efforts. There was a situation where we weren't equitable. Some schools had African American studies, some did not. So now all of our schools have African American studies. We are expanding to offer African American literature at our schools, and we're piloting that right now so that we can expand. The other part of diversity is having access to all types of programming. AP classes shouldn't be in just at one school or variety at 2 or 3 schools. So we're using our technology. So I don't know if any of you guys are participating in some of our AP blended learning courses or expanding our career tech opportunity. So this year we had 3 schools that did not have career tech. So we have expanded those opportunities to all of our high schools. So I believe, again, choice is important. You have a voice to decide what option, what pathway you want to take, and having guidance counselors. So we have increased the guidance counselors, so you have an adult there that you can talk to and plan your future ahead. So I also include from the equity standpoint around access to other programming at all of our high schools. Thank you for that question, Simone. That was great.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Zenobia Tucker, and I go to Hughes High School, and I'm currently a senior there. And our problem in our building is 70% of our senior class is not ready for graduation. And most of it is due to credit deficiency from them not doing what they needed to do in previous grades and then still being promoted to the next grade. And so now a lot of our seniors are doing Edgenuity, and they're focusing on that to catch up, but they're not doing their current senior classes as well. So my question to you is, how will you support secondary students to succeed academically earlier so they will not be doing credit recovery as seniors and not graduating on time? And how will grades reflect what students actually are learning?
That goes to my original statement around student driven. And it starts way before high school. It starts in preschool. We are very fortunate to have a partnership, and the public passed the levy for us to offer preschool. So it starts at 3 years old for Cincinnati Public Schools, and ensuring that our kids are literate, that they are engaged in learning, that they are happy to be at school. So if we can create that early on and build upon that, that's where the early success comes from. We also have a very different model. Our high school starts in 7th and 8th grade. Let's take advantage of that. Let's take advantage of that. Let's have some mentoring programs for seniors who know, you know what, don't do what I did. Let's connect with our younger folks. Let's build on the leadership of our senior, junior class to help our 7th and 8th graders, right? Student driven, student action, beyond student voice. We have to also, as the adults, make sure that we have a strong academic capacity so our kids to take advantage of those programs, so they're not doing only credit recovery in those later grades. And you do that by awareness. What are we doing in 7th and 8th grade as junior high school students to ensure that students are fully aware of their course options, that they're fully aware of how a grade can impact you? Some of you in here will be going to college. Some people, I tell you right now, college students will tell you your freshman year is the most important year. When you set that GPA, you're either going to make it from there and rock and roll, or you're always climbing out of a hole. It's the same thing, right? So it's a life skill. It's a life skill, and we have to start as young as preschool, but when the kids make the transition from elementary to middle school, we have to use our resources. The young folks are already in our building and have the story, and let them share that story. The adults in the schools know that. So let's find out what's going on. Why are they failing? So what I have done just recently was pull the 9th grade failure, Fs, because that limits the amount of electives you can take, things that you are passionate about. So what can we do? I was just talking to teachers earlier to ensure students are successful the first time around, not the second time or the third time you have to take ELA 2. So we do that by having conversations, looking at data to decide, oh my goodness, this is the area that we have to maybe spend a little more time on, that we see 80% of our kids didn't get this. So it's a little science and it's a little hard, right? So I'm looking at the data, but I'm also connecting to you as an adult and understanding where you are so I can help move you forward so you can be successful the first time around.
Hello, my name is Edward Johnson. I go to Aiken High School, and my question pertains to physical health. My question is, what will you do to make our nutrition choices more robust and healthier in terms of school lunches? and food for families that need additional support?
That's a great question. As a principal, I used to still a hot item is the wings. And we have to go beyond the wings. So I think the way to do that is doing some more taste test options. And I know our student dining services has started that, getting your opinion on the meals, right? So more tasting options and getting that feedback, but more choice, more choice. Right now, when someone brought up the pandemic, choice is limited if you know about the supply chain. Stuff is not being delivered. So we understand that. But beyond that, how can we provide more choice so students can select the options that they like and not just the one menu option? And how can we provide opportunities to allow taste testing so you can give us feedback on the meals?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Daquan Ford. I'm a graduating senior from Shorter High School, and my question to you is, what have you done to implement more comprehensive mental health support for students in your current role? What will you do to Envision during and CPS to make services more available to students, their families, and staff?
As a district, we're very fortunate to have the partnerships at our schools. So all of our schools have mental health support. We're very fortunate. So to continue to leverage those partnerships with our community so we can provide those supports. For a visionary piece of this, what I think it's important that there's a gap is something called classroom guiding, where a guidance counselor can come into the classroom and talk to the classroom as a whole, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean you have a situation right now, but those healthy mental, emotional capacities to build that in our student. So when there is a crisis or there's trauma, that we know how to cope. So that's something that we're kind of looking into right now. We have a positive school culture department. It is brand new. It's only in its second year. So really leveraging that department to really see what are the needs. But I believe what can really have a greater impact is intervention before we get into that situation. Intervention also looks like common interest groups. Interests from a senior, I'm about to head out here and I really don't feel prepared. I have anxiety. Who can I talk to amongst my peers? And then have an adult had those conversations, right? For more individualized needs, I think we really need to partner with some of our experts and then also prepare our staff, our teachers. I think our teachers want to help, necessarily don't have the skills to help. So what supports can we put in place for our teachers, our paraprofessionals, so when students are coming in with the need that they are prepared to support our kids? And sometimes we're not in that situation. So I would say more SEL. And so what I have done is provided those services for staff, but I think we need a lot more. And then to really look at some of the early interventions to support our kids.
Hello, this is Seth again. This question is, on Schoology and PowerSchool, students are required to use their legal name unless given explicit permission from their parents. This can potentially lead to embarrassing and sometimes harmful situations, especially with transgender students who use their chosen name with their friends, but their teacher calls them by the name on PowerSchool. How will you respond to this issue?
I have been in a district, and it's something that maybe we can consider and have conversations about on application materials or formal platforms like Schoology. There is a preferred name. What do you prefer to be called? And providing, again, student decision-making, action-driven, allowing the student to say, this is my preferred name. This is not uncommon. This happens a lot. When you go to the doctor's office, that form may be there that you can say, this is my birth given name, but this is my preferred name. So maybe having some discussions around that opportunity that other industries have used for a very long time that we can bring over to our educational system.
Hi, my name is Isaiah. I'm a junior at Spencer. And our next question is, in your experience, how have you ensured that district budget practices create equitable opportunities for students? Because from what I know, I could be wrong, but a lot of the budget like is based on student population, like in schools. And like Spencer, me and Sasha, like we go to a smaller school, and we don't get as much funding because we don't have a lot of students, but we also don't have a lot of space. And because we don't have a lot of space because we don't have a lot of funding because we don't have a lot of students. So like, yeah.
Right. Chicken or egg, right? Chicken or egg, what comes first? Great question on equity. So what we're doing right now, I'm working as the interim superintendent closely with our district treasurer. And these are tiers of finance. So the first thing is, what is tier one? What should all students have? You all should have textbooks, you all should have a desk, you all should have a teacher. What do all students get? Then we are looking at programming. So if you're programming, I heard someone say Hughes. I was a part of UC IT Hughes program, right? So we have to make sure we have a career tech teacher who's trained for that. With Spencer, you have Latin. I think Dr. Yeager is still over there. I worked with him at Hyde Park. So making sure we have that because that's part of programming. So we have to look at the layers. What should all students receive as students of Cincinnati Public Schools, and then look at programming. Then there's grants based on need, right? So then we take those grants and fund those schools based on need. So some of it is based on a formula, how many kids that are in your school. But just talking to principals just now, they said we need to look past the formula sometime and look at the human element. So that's what I'm hearing from you guys as well, looking at the human element. So although we may have 10 kids in this particular classroom, we still need these resources to be competitive, have access, just like the larger high school. So we have to come to the table, have discussion, and what we're doing right now is layering the budget based on making sure everybody gets what they need, and then looking at programming.
Hi again.
Hi.
So we really want to dive deep into who you are as a person and who you are outside of the classroom and behind the educator in yourself.
Yeah.
So we want to ask you and we want to know, what was the last major lie you told? How did it affect those around you? And how did you make amends afterwards?
Let's see, a major lie. I would say it's one to my daughter. As a college student, and she was going to change her major, and I did what I thought was the right parenting thing, and I include keeping your mouth shut as a lie. And so she was bouncing around in this major. She actually graduated from Ohio State, but she was at Ohio State as a biomedical engineer. Do it. Just did not want to do it. So what I kind of sort of said was kind of pushed her to stay in that major because I wanted her to graduate and not bounce from having to stay at school at 4 years and being at school at 6 to 7 years, right? Because, so I said, do you know your passion? She said, I do not. I'm still trying to figure it out. Well, I need you to stay here. The lie was she graduated. She's not very happy because she graduated with the biomedical engineering degree, but she did it in 4 years. And so the moral of this story is the lie will catch up with you, because now she's in California in a job that she doesn't like. And thought I was doing the right thing. Get out of school, get out of school, get out of school. Where I should have let her kind of make that decision on her own. I'm paying for it right now. Having the truthful conversation around, which I have done, to follow your passion, the money will come. I wish I would have said that at that time. And I didn't. I was telling her, you need to finish, you need to finish, you need to finish. So she's with a degree, unhappy, but we're having these real conversations now to help guide through life to find her passion that she can stand in and be happy for her future life. So I would just say, when it's at all possible, tell the truth, even if it hurts or it's a disadvantage for you. Because it was a disadvantage for me, not really her. It's her life. And so now we're dealing with that now. Great question.
Yes, Amat, we were really excited to have the opportunity to ask that question. And I really want to just thank the student panel who puzzled very productively on making sure that we got at the things that they want to know about. And there are more things that they want to know about. We would love to give you a few minutes if you have questions for the students to illuminate their thinking on anything or get some feedback. This is a perfect time to do that.
Thank you, Kathleen. I would absolutely love to talk to the students. I see some familiar faces. I see people going to some HBCUs, pediatrician. I know you're going to culinary arts. So I want to know part of this. So part of my role is going out to schools as a superintendent and learning about kids and hearing and connecting. What I would want is, and just to connect with that story, what can we do as adults to ensure you are finding your passion and your pathway to be successful at CPS? I see hands going up. Thank you.
I think a good way that CPS could go about that is like making sure that all students know about the resources they have within the school. Because a lot of things I didn't discover until it was like too late. Like many AP classes, AA classes, stuff like that, they don't really make sure that they tell everyone. They usually just pick out the people with like perfect GPAs and have a good record or a clean record and let them do it. Because me personally, I started high school really bad. I probably had like a 1 point something. And now I'm in dual enrollment classes, getting my associates. And it's just been a big shift of how much I've been informed of and how much I've known. And so I think that's a very big deal that students actually know what they have.
That's a great point. Thank you. I haven't heard from this young lady back here.
I noticed that schools prioritize grades over happiness, and I feel like that's not it. I feel like we need to prioritize students' happiness over what their grades look like, because I like a lot of my friends and sometimes me, we will kill ourselves over the perfect grades, but we're not happy. So I really think we need to prioritize happiness over grades, and that's how you will find out what you want to be and who you want to be. And I just think it'll make a positive impact overall for all the students. So.
Thank you.
My name is Taylor Joyner. I'm a student at Aiken, and to answer your question, one way to kind of go about this is to like give us more things to know about, because like I'm choosing to go to the Army after high school, but we didn't have no recruiter or anything coming to our school, and I didn't know about one coming to the school until my senior year. And there are some kids who want to join the military now, but they didn't know about it until this year. So I would say like just give us more passions or more topics to kind of go about, because like right now only at Aiken, I don't know about the other schools, but like our main subjects are like band, sports, art, um, robotics and stuff. Like we don't know the outside world that much unless unless we're told by some other schools
Hmm.
or read about in the news. It would just help to know to like bring more stuff into CPS or in schools in general to let us know there's more stuff we can do besides trying to just enlist or get a
Yeah.
job or just go to college. There are more opportunities in the world that we don't know about.
Thank you.
Hi, I didn't say this before, but I'm Madison and I go to Clark Montessori. I am 10th grader. I do agree with a lot of statements in here that um schools do prioritize numbers over students'
Hmm.
health because I am a straight A student, but getting those A's made me so stressed out and stuff. So I feel like some schools should really ask what's going on with students. If a student is in your class, they talking about they don't like it here, they don't want to be here, ask them what's going on, please, because that helps so many people. Like I haven't experienced this, but I know people who just stop working, just shut down because their mental health isn't good. Then grades start dropping, they started acting weird and stuff. So I really feel like there needs to be like more mental health. And with passion, I really think schools should see past numbers be in records because people really do change. And
Yeah.
I feel that y'all need to see, like the adults need to see that kids aren't just like this number.
Hmm.
We are human beings like y'all, and we have feelings, we have thoughts, we have dreams. Put passion into your students. They might not get the best grades, but put passion into your students.
Thank you.
My name is Anastasia James. I hope I'm like projecting, but my main thing is having more like creativity and different like options, like learning about entrepreneurship, learning about trade schools, learning about just different options other than colleges. So I know personally from my school, my guidance counselor, he pushes like college and scholarships, so that's a lot. But I know a lot of my peers, that's not their route. And for a lot of them, they don't know how to go about the route that they want to go. There's no guidance for them. And so just to have more guidance for different career paths, different options, and to have more like programs, like STEM programs, entrepreneurship, like learning how to be a leader and learning how to be your own person in the real world, not just in a school environment.
Thank you.
Hi, Miss Amat. It's
Hi.
great to meet you.
Thank
My
you.
name is Sasha Jordan. I'm a junior at Spencer Center. Um, Speaking to, you mentioned the partnerships that you have with other like organizations in the community. So maybe as far as the career and passions goes, maybe you could partner with like, I don't know. I know people aren't really fans of like police and stuff these days, but police departments, like the fire people
Yeah.
and other people of different careers to come into the schools, if you can maybe find a way to work with them so people are more exposed to different, even like artists and stuff with creativity, because I know
Yes.
a lot more people want to pursue things like that lately. So yeah,
Thank you,
that might be
Sasha.
an.
Hi, my name is Kaylee, and I'm representing on behalf of the Woodward Career Technical High School. So my answer to your question would be as far as giving us more career courses options, because like, for example, at my school, they only offer health, construction, and manufacturing, and kind of forcing us to get certifications and things that we may not take interest in. So maybe like expanding those options.
Thank you. This is a clear example why we have to move from student centered to student voice to student driven. One question was answered, and I have a whole lot of more questions and ideas to get from you. So I hope we have the opportunity to have further opportunities to collaborate and co-plan what CPS looks like in the future. Simone?
So you already know me, but I go to Walnut, and I think that it's really important that like AP and honors classes are presented to more people than just the people with the 3.0 or higher, because I've had instances with my friends. I have a specific friend. He's like really smart, and he didn't know about APs or double A's until we were juniors. And that could have really helped him in the long run. So I think that it's very important that those opportunities are presented even to those who like teachers don't think are as much qualified. But I feel like they should be equally represented for all students. And in regards to mental health, our school just recently implemented where we have 5 mental health days of a school year. I don't know if anybody else's school in here does that, but I think that's important for every school to have and to have an opportunity like that. And I have a close friend of mine right now. She's going through some mental health issues and hasn't been coming to class. And my teacher's been asking me about her because that's just like the relationship she has with her. But I feel like more teachers should try and go a little bit beyond just the normal teacher and student relationship if they see that something is really wrong with their student. Like if they see that their student is not continuously showing up to class, I think that they should take that initiative to reach out to that student and like go a little bit beyond the teacher and student regular relationship, not making it awkward, but like just to show your student that you care about them and that it is important, like their presence in the class is missed. So I think that's really important. So to answer your question, one of the things that I think you all should do is implement more programs like the school to work program. So we have that at Hughes, and I think it's all over CPS, but a lot of people don't know about it. So when I first started, it's a program at Good Sam Hospital, by the way. When I first started, I thought I wanted to be a nurse. I've been in a program for 2 years, and I now know I don't want to be a nurse at all whatsoever. I actually want to be an orthopedic surgeon for the NFL. And so being in a program like that like really opened my eyes because I was gonna go to school for nursing and I wouldn't have liked it. But now I know that I need to go to school for biology because of what I want to do. So more programs like that would be helpful.
Thank you. I see that we have 1 minute left, so I will close to say, if given the opportunity to serve as a superintendent, one of the first thing I would do, and it's very clear that I need to do it quickly, is have a student advisory group. You guys have the ideas. You are experiencing school every day. How can we get better? How can we come together to provide a happy environment, a compassionate environment, a place where teachers are building relationships with students? We're providing opportunities for career tech, for entrepreneurship beyond what we're doing right now. Our funding is equitable, not equal, but equitable. That's what I got in just this 40 minutes with our young people in this room. So I thank you for taking this opportunity to come together, leave your buildings, and do this very important work of asking the adults the very difficult questions. I honor you, I value you, and I thank you today for allowing me this little bit of time to spend with you. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, Ms. Amat. We appreciate it. And best of luck to you the rest of the day today. Team, that was awesome. Great work. Really, really good. We got a lot further with questions than I thought, so that turned out perfectly. Thank you.
Sequence in the blue suit. I know who Seth is.
While we're getting ready, just a reminder for closed captioning. If you're looking for closed captioning for the event, please click on the sprocket for the settings In the bottom right corner of your screen, you can turn on the closed captioning, and you can also choose a language that the closed captioning will be interpreted in if you need it. Thank you.
Dr. Ironetta Wright, welcome. So good to see you again. And this, I'm biased, but this will be a highlight of your experience here for sure. So I am happy to turn over the microphone to Kylie Bridgeman, our student facilitator, who will walk us through the first part of the process. Welcome.
Students, we have a new mic passer, so if you'd be kind to her when they call out your name, just go ahead and raise your hand so Tisha knows where to go.
Good afternoon. My name is Kylie Bridgeman. I'm the senior class president at Walnut Hills High School, and I welcome you to your time with the student interview panel. We believe student voice has a monumental place in this process, and we thank you for taking this time with us today. Today's interview will be live streamed to the public so that they can participate in our conversation. And we ask that you try and remain under 3 minutes for each question that we ask so that we can get to all of the very important questions that we intend to ask you. Again, thank you, and we look forward to spending this time with you today.
Okay, and Seth, if you would walk Dr. Wright through a little bit about the process. Seth might have taken flight there for just a second. Kylie, can you fill Dr. Wright in on how we went about designing this process? Thank you.
Of course. So we spent a lot of time as a student group formulating questions and deciding what is valuable to us and what is meaningful that we ask you. So we spent time on Tuesday evening going through questions, learning how to do it. And this morning we spent an hour vetting those questions in that process again. So all of the questions that we formulated speak to inclusion, they speak to access, they speak to equity, and we really ask that you are honest through your answers and that you let us into how you will make CPS an equitable district throughout the process. We ask questions about dress code, LGBTQ plus inclusion, diversification, all of those things, and we're really excited to hear what you have to say today.
All right, thank you, Kylie. And Anna Schlosser will be our question facilitator, and she'll explain a little bit about what to expect with how students will ask the questions.
Hello, Dr. Wright. It's so good for you to be here. I'm glad to see you. My name's Anna Schlosser. I'm a senior at Walnut Hills, and I've been here in the district since I was a 3-year-old preschooler at North Avondale Montessori. So today we're going to be asking you 10 questions asked by 10 different students, and we ask that you keep them to about 3-minute answers, which will allow us to have a question and answer session where we can ask you questions and you can ask us questions about our view of the district. So thank you. Sure, we can switch it up a little bit. I'm going to go right into asking our first question, which is regarding COVID. So do you think the current guidelines that CPS has to mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 virus require revision due to staff shortages and student absences resulting from infection in the recent weeks, including the potential of a future student vaccine mandate?
Okay, can we? Okay. Yes, okay. First of all, thank you all for being here. I am absolutely excited to be here and talk to you today, so I will do my best to stay under the 3 minutes. Is there a timekeeper in the room to help me out? Because I don't always do well. Is there anybody? Nobody? Somebody in the back. Okay, somebody, you said you would? Okay, great. Thank you. So just give me a wave if I'm coming up on the 3 minutes. So the question was specifically around vaccination and where we are in terms of the district and looking at the mitigation strategies. I do think that it's really important that we follow the guidance that is provided by our local health departments as well as the Center for Disease Control. One of the things that we're noticing across the country is almost daily there is a change in information. For example, just last week, and I don't know how many of you saw this, but just last week there was an additional recommendation, some conversation around whether or not schools still needed to have students in masks or whether they didn't need to have them in masks. The one thing that you notice, and I've been doing this work in my district, I've led a lot of the COVID response work in my district, and one of the things that you notice is generally when you go to the guidelines, it goes back to engaging with your local health department because every community is different. What's happening in every community is different. For example, in Detroit Public Schools Community District, where I currently serve as the Deputy Superintendent of Schools, when we came back from winter break, right? So everyone's out of school, we come back for winter break. In the city, the rate of infection was about 40% in the city. Because we were also testing in schools, we found that our rate of infection was pretty high as well. So at that time, we made the decision to go to a virtual online space for about 3 weeks to give time for there to be some separation time, if you will, from those in the community and to help mitigate the spread. I don't know if that would have been the same case in other communities, just looking at the percentages of infection. So I think it's really important that we follow the guidance of CDC, that we really, really pay attention to the work that we're doing with our local health departments. When we start thinking about the vaccine, there are a couple of schools of thought on that as well. So for example, within the last week or so, we know that there have been some challenges, at the law level with whether or not we're even able to do certain kinds of mandates around vaccines specifically for students. So we really have to follow the process, follow the guidelines. It seems, and I know, for some of you, maybe you felt the same because as I work with my students in my district, they feel the same way sometimes. It's like it continues to change, right? Well, it continues to change because as information is provided, the information changes. So we really have to make sure that we stay connected to what those that are in the expert level share with us and then make the decisions that are in the best interest of our district and community.
Thank you for your detailed answer.
Hi, Dr. Wright. As you said, you're from Detroit. We have a very, very important question. Knowing what you do about our district, why do you want to be the superintendent of Cincinnati Public Schools? Is this a stepping stone position for you, or do you intend to stay for a long time?
Okay, so that is an amazing question. Absolutely amazing. So let me back up a little bit to answer the question for you. I'm coming up next year will be my 30th year in education. I started when I was 12. Everybody got that? Nobody laughed. You were supposed to laugh, right? Okay. So next year will be my 30th year. The first 25 years of my career was in Jacksonville, Florida, Duval County Public Schools, where I am a native. Within the last 5 years, my superintendent, who was my superintendent in Jacksonville, we had really been able to do some amazing work for students. He got the superintendency in Detroit. When he got the superintendency in Detroit, he recruited me to come to Detroit to assist him with that work. When you really look at my history, I'm not one that moves around. I was in Jacksonville for 25 years, did great work in 25 years, and then transitioned to Detroit to really help rebuild that school district. And that's what we've been able to do in the last 5 years. So for me, when I think about Cincinnati Public Schools, one of the things that really excites me is Cincinnati is really in between the level of work that I was able to do in Duval County. I served 117,000 students, the 20th largest school district in the country. I had 163 schools. And I started in that district as a student. I was a student in the district. I moved to a bookkeeper in the district and then to a teacher, an assistant principal, so forth and so on. And I left the district as chief of schools. When I came to Detroit currently had about 49,000 students when I came 5 years ago. We're right at about 53,000 now, and 106 schools. When I think about Cincinnati Public Schools, just really thinking about size to start with, it's kind of right there with population that I am accustomed to working with. Outside of that, however, what draws me to an area is the work that I'm able to do for children. That's what draws me to the area. So when I look at CPS, I see the amazing programming that the district has already done for a long time, right? Like Cincinnati Public Schools started magnet, was one of the first in the country to start magnet programs. And that really was about options for students when it started. It really was a way, how are you looking at the needs of the community and how are you trying to address those needs? That was the first thing. The second thing, though, that I noticed when I really look at Cincinnati public schools is the environment really feels like I felt, honestly, in Jacksonville. Cincinnati is most closely connected to my experience in Jacksonville. The city is a little bit smaller. However, that's almost 3 minutes already. There's water in the area. There is just a family feel that's in the area as well. So that was something that was important to me, just from what's important to me as a person. The third thing, though, is in the school system. There is amazing work that's happened. There is, as we begin to think about where we are with experiences, there are some experiences that are not the same across the entire district. And so really to be able to look at this is where we are, this is where we're looking to go. And transformation has really been a part of my life's work in terms of my overall body of work in terms of working in the district. I have I don't have a whole lot of years left when I think about it. When we think about stepping stone, it's not a step for me. I don't have a lot of years left. I'm looking for a place where I can grow roots in that area. I have two daughters. Both of my daughters are in college. So when they return from college, I really want it to be somewhere where we're together as a family, but where I can do the quality work in the school district, use all of the voices and build on the work that's already happened. But also after it's time for me to retire, that will happen one day. I mean, I see, 15 years. I think I have about 15, 20 more good years in me, honestly. But after that time, I want to stay in the community. I want to work for the university. I want to help to build leadership development programs that are still connected to the school system. So I'm not looking for just a one more place. I'm looking for my final place.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your response.
That was 4 minutes. Okay.
Hi, I'm Madison, and I am a sophomore at Clark Montessori. I love your pearls and your bracelets and stuff, and that's the way you express yourself. In your opinion, how can student expression be elevated within our education system, and how will you encourage students to embrace and express their individuality? Speaking of that, what is your stance on the student dress code?
So the work that I lead in my district right now really supports, it's the work that really works on the student code of conduct and dress code and all of the policies, if you will. I'll say procedures and protocols that go along with the the way that we work with our students in the district. So the first thing, I really have to go back to my time as a principal. I was a middle school principal, so in my district we were divided K5, 6, 8, and then 12. I was a middle school principal for a period of time. I ended my principal career as a high school principal in one of the most challenged high schools in the state of Florida. The reason that I bring that up as important is because my interaction with students and working with students around student voice, around student advocacy, um, around students really being able to engage in issues and concerns started as a principal. Actually, it started before then when I was a teacher. I was a math teacher, I was a science teacher, I was a special ed teacher. So it really started then. I think that it's important that we recognize that we are not doing school to students, we are doing school with students. And so when we know that, we look for ways to elevate student voice. When you talk specifically about student expression, we're really thinking about how do we keep our students, all of them, engaged in the educational programming that's happening in school. How are we servicing the whole child? Sometimes we, as leaders, we don't always, it's like we will create the experience, but the people that we're creating the experience for, we don't get their feedback on the experience. So if I'm creating something for students, I need to create that with students in mind. I need to bring students to the table so students are able to talk to me about what that is. As a principal, I started student council in our school because we didn't have it, but it was not just a student council in name only. I met with the students once a month, met with them so that they could bring to me what their concerns were or other things that they wanted to see happen in the school. I did that as a principal, did the same thing as a district level leader, as assistant superintendent, encouraged principals to do the same thing. And then in my most current district, We didn't have student councils across the district. That was something that we were able to bring. So not just to say we have a student council, but all schools, especially high schools, need to have that level of leadership in the school. So we work with the schools, identify those in the school to really move forward with that work, and then we meet with them through a monthly student leadership session that has a representative from every high school in the district. When I think about student expression, I really pair that with student advocacy and student voice and really giving them a safe space. If we're servicing the whole child, it has to be important. When you ask the question about dress code, I think that that's really something that we have to continue to have conversation about because there are two different schools of thought on it. I come from a school district right now where when we got to the school district, there was a uniform policy that was in place, right? There was a specific uniform policy. We were able to engage and really adapt that policy a bit, but it was still one that was a uniform policy. In my previous district, there was a dress code policy, but individual schools made a decision as to whether or not they had a uniform policy. So it's really something that we're continuing to engage around each year with our code of conduct, which includes the student dress code. We open it up so we get feedback from each stakeholder group. So you get feedback from the staff, feedback from students, feedback from parents, feedback from the community, and then with that, we make recommendations to our board because our student code of conduct that includes the dress code is actually a policy. We're starting that process right now. Like if you go to my school district's website right now, you'll see that those conversations start in March, and you will see the different areas for student involvement.
Good afternoon. My name is Sloan Simmons, and I'm a senior at Walnut Hills High School. And my question for you is, from your perspective, what is your plan for diversifying student curriculum as well as staff?
What was the second part? I heard the first part in student curriculum, and what was the other part?
As well as staff.
So I really think that we have to start by taking a deeper look into what we currently have. So it's difficult for me to say where we go next before I really have a clear indication on where we are. So that's the first. One of the things that I was able to do in current district, and I give it to you as an example because it's really work that I've been engaged in already, and I can talk to you about how I did it before. So in my current district, um, um, selecting new curriculum for high school students. We did the K-8 students earlier. And then year before last, we did the high school students. And the wonderful part about that, then it goes back to your question around student expression and student voice. On our curricular teams, on the teams that were helping to decide the curriculum for the students, we had high school students involved in those teams. Why was that important? Because, again, if I'm bringing a curriculum to you, I'm bringing information to you, I need to know whether or not it's something that you're going to be engaged in, whether or not it's something that speaks to you as an individual, whether you see yourself in the curriculum, and whether you see how this will look for you and your classmates in school. So I think first starting by looking at where we currently are, getting feedback from where we are, engaging students around where we currently are, and what else they would like to see in that curriculum. And then from there, moving to next steps to really determine, one, if that curriculum already exists somewhere that we can then replicate in our own district, or if we're working with the power of our teachers that we already have in the district to come together and create what that would look like in our school environments. In terms of diversifying staff, I think that's a larger question. It's one, it actually came up in an earlier session that I was doing today with one of the groups. First of all, it's starting with the understanding that this is something that's important. As our students are walking through school buildings, they need to see individuals that look like them, that connect with them, that want to be a part of that work. So first, accepting the fact or identifying the fact that we want to see something different in this space while we still honor those that are already doing the work in the building. So once you do that, then you move to what do those programs look like? One of the questions earlier was how, we would go about increasing Black male teachers in the district. And so I can talk about ways that I've been able to do that before, but it really starts with with the realization that this is something that we want to focus on as a district. And then from there, this is how we move forward in doing that focus.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning. My name is Zenobia Tucker, and I'm a senior at Hughes High School. And so one of the problems that's currently going on in our building is our senior class is 70% not ready to graduate. So the question is, how will you support secondary students to succeed academically earlier so that they are not doing credit recovery as seniors and not graduating on time? And how will grades reflect what students are actually learning?
All right, so that's two very different questions, but I'm going to answer them both to the best of my ability, okay? So the first, in terms of graduation, I think it's really important that we know to start with, that students know to start with where they are. So you think about, remember that graduation rates are determined based on when you enter ninth grade. So really the drive toward graduation starts when you enter as a ninth grader, not during the summer before your senior year. So I think it's important that, one, we work with our existing staff, our school counselors, our teachers, so that they understand the courses that are needed for graduation, so that as students are starting, even as ninth grade students, or before they get to the ninth grade, they know these are the courses that I took in my K-8 experience that are going to then count for me toward graduation. So they always have a pulse on what they need to do in terms of graduation. One of the things that we worked on, that I was able to work on with my students, I did it at my high school, because I shared with you that my high school was the lowest performing in the state of Florida. We had 67 counties. There were 24 high schools in my district alone. So you can do the math on the number of schools, right? We were the lowest performing. So what I was able to do initially, we started, I did the song, it's may date it. We started from the bottom, now we're here. You all, anybody remember that song? Right. Well, I was a high school principal when that song came out. And so because my school, we were able to move in 4 years from an F grade to a B grade, that was what I walked into the pep rally on that day, because we had to tell everybody else that this was something that we were able to accomplish in this building with this population of students. But I digress. I had to share that. So we started with the tracking, really tracking students, giving them information for graduation. These are your graduation requirements. This is what you're going to need to take with you. And so every year, twice a year, at the semester and at the end of the year, reviewing where students were. Of course, for ninth grade students, it's a little different, because if they've remained on track throughout the year, they're fine. 10th grade students, you may see a little different, because if they remain on track, they're fine. But if not, how do we go ahead and make up those courses? So does that mean you're rescheduled into those courses during the school day? Or are you in a summer program so that you're taking those courses after your 10th grade year, not on the way to your 12th grade year during the summer? So really, I think exposure, awareness, making sure that students and parents are aware from day one. They know what the expectations are. You've worked with your staff in the school building so that they know, so that everybody is speaking that language for the students. The last part of that is we were also able to work with a role that we had in the building that was outside of school counselors, but it was really called like a graduation coach. And that person's responsibility was just to shepherd students and really work them through the process. So I was able to then attach them to students that weren't on target. So we were able to continue that. Thank you. We were able to continue that in our district. We did it in Duval County, which increased the graduation rate across the district. We had an increase in graduation rate, had an increase in graduation rate at my school, and we were able to bring that to Detroit Public Schools as well, so that we're focusing on the same thing. The other part about that is, how do you ensure that grades, and I know the time is almost up, but how do you ensure that grades match the work? I think that's a deeper conversation and a deeper question, because we really have to ask whether or not grades are determined based on an assessment of learning or an assessment for learning. And then how do we help students understand that? The other thing is, we have to look at what we're grading, right? You write it in blue ink, the teacher wants you to write it in black ink, so do you get a 0 for that, right? So you really start working with teachers around what we're grading students on, and does it meet the expectation for the standards.
Hello, my name is Edward Johnson. I am a senior at Aiken High School, and my question pertains to physical health. My question is, what will you do to make our nutrition choices more robust and healthier in terms of school lunches and food for families that need additional support?
Definitely. Great questions. And all of these questions are part of my body of work. So when you smile, it's really connecting with what that work is already. And so in my current district and in the previous district, of course, we have guidance and guidelines that go along with are funded at a school level for lunches, right? And so different administrations have a different area of focus. With the administration before the last administration, there was really a heavy emphasis on fruits and vegetables. So really making sure that we're working with our operations team, currently with our school staff, with our school nutrition team. That was a focus for us. It was really making the cafeteria experience for high school, wasn't necessarily for the K-8 environment, but for the high school, as we surveyed students and asked students what would make the overall high school experience better for you. Across our district, they referenced the time during lunch. Like that would make the experience better because you spent a lot of time together during that lunch time and you didn't always love the food that was there. So we really work with our nutrition staff. We have a chef that's on staff. The chef actually went out to schools and did tasting sessions with the students to really get an idea of the foods that they were looking for. We diversified how those foods were served in schools during the day. A big piece of that was changing the furniture in the cafeteria so that it really allowed students to feel like they were in a cafe or they were in a Starbucks, but it was something different than what you saw. Or when I was in school where we had the cafeteria tables that looked like this and the individual seats, it really became more of an experience. How do we have that experience? So started that work actually at my high school is where I particularly started that. My superintendent, it was really a focus for him in our district in Duval County. And then when we came to Detroit, it was the same because the feedback from students were the same. My body of work also works with students that have housing and food insecurity. And so we've really been able to work with partners across the district to make sure there are a lot of organizations that provide services to students through backpack lunches and things that they can get on Friday and take home with them. Gleaners is one of the programs that we work with in our district, but they go across the district to our schools and students, and parents can pick those resources up on a Friday and take them home with them, and they only include healthy choices for food items. So that's something that's really important, really, really important.
Good afternoon. My name is Zaquan Ford. I'm a graduating senior from Shorter High School, and our next question is, what have you done to implement more comprehensive mental health support for students in your current role? What do you envision doing in CPS to make services more available for students, their families, and staff?
Awesome question. And I will say that I got here yesterday, and I went to the basketball game last night at Schroeder. I was looking for where I might be able to see students. So there was a game at Schroeder, and Schroeder was playing West High. So I went to the game last night. So I was at your school last night in your gym. So it was a great experience. Um, you know, Mental health is really important. And I think one of the things that we have to recognize sometimes in our communities that there is a stigma that goes along sometimes with mental health or needing additional support. So one of the things that we start with is really trying to demystify the need for additional support. I started, and if you go to our school district's website, or if you Google us, and I'm a social media person, so I don't know, are you anybody on Twitter? I tweet? No. IG? Okay, more IG than the other. Okay, some on Facebook, that's dated. Nobody does Facebook. My kids say, Mom, nobody does Facebook. Okay, so on the other sites, it's either on our school district's website or even, on our different social media platforms. I was able to lead an initiative during the pandemic, and I really started it last year. We had started work already in our district around mental health support. And so what we do is a universal mental health screener with all of the students. And that really just gives us a pulse on where our students are and whether or not they're needing additional assistance. And from that mental health screening, we're then able to determine where the gaps are collectively so that we know if there are things that we need to do for everybody across the district or we need to address students individually. The first year that we did that as a district was year before last, and it was completely anonymous. Well, it was great to have the data because the data then helped us look at, okay, this is our character development area, so these are some lessons that we need to work on, or this is what we're looking at in social emotional learning, so these are some lessons that we need to make sure that's a part of what we're doing in social studies or what's happening in science. But when we really wanted to get to the level of the students, we needed to know who the students were that were having individual challenges. So if a child is feeling like they're having suicidal ideations, we need to know who that child is so that we can get to that child and give them the support that they need. So during the pandemic, last year, we actually started in about December. We did the universal mental health screener for all of our students in the district. And from there, and we did it attached to students' names this time, even though the information was confidential. And from there, we were able to go in, identify additional supports that students needed, begin to work with them on individual counseling sessions with students. And then this year, we've been able to expand that so that all of our schools have access to mental health support at the school building. The Are You Okay initiative, Are You Okay, How May We Help initiative is the one that you'll see on our website, or even if you go onto our social media information, that really was a dual prong focus, where we focused on the needs of the students, what's happening with staff, and how we're also doing that work with parents. And it was all around mental health and mental health supports. I also was able to start, and this is under my purview as well, we already did a homework hotline where students could call in and get assistance with homework, like the regular old homework hotline where you call on the phone and get help. But we also added a mental health support line to that as well. So if we had families that were needing assistance, that was one of the places that they could call, while we also made available all of the other resources across the community that, where parents could get assistance and how we could continue to work with them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Seth Copins. I am a junior from SCPA. And the next question is, on Schoology and PowerSchool, students are required to use their legal name unless given explicit permission from their parents. This can potentially lead to embarrassing and sometimes harmful situations, especially with transgender students who use their chosen name with their friends, but their teacher calls them by the name on PowerSchool. How will you respond to this issue?
Yes. I think we first have to look at whether or not there's any guidance that's already provided on that by the state, so that we make sure that we're not doing anything that will keep students from being able to have access to their grades, or how we can work on it on the other end so it doesn't cause them to lose any information. I believe in the way collectively that we support our students in our LGBTQIA plus community, because it's really important that we honor them. And as we also think about expression, we're honoring who they are and who they identify with. The way that I was able to do that in our current district, all of the work with equity it's in my portfolio of work as well. And so one of the things that we were able to do is we were able to work with, it's not just through PowerSchool. So I think you said Schoology and PowerSchool.
Yes.
So PowerSchool is the student information system that we use as well. So we were able to set up in our student information system, by working with all of our teams, we were able to set up where we could put in PowerSchool the name for the student on the front end that they identify with. So when a student, or when when a teacher pulls that child's name up, there is a place there for us to input the information so that it gives the name that's appropriate. On the back end, so that it doesn't cause an issue at the state level, the information as it's given at the state is still there in the background, but it doesn't keep us from identifying and supporting students where they currently are. The other thing that's really important with that, I know you didn't ask this question, but I'm going to answer this one as well. The other thing that's really important with that is also looking at our current practices that might identify or cause students to have to identify one way or the other. So how we're looking at restrooms in schools. Is there a restroom in the school that's not specifically a female restroom or a male restroom? Do we have practices in school that say only boys wear this and only girls wear this, and how we remove those things so that we're honoring all of our students?
We
Awesome.
have
Thank you
4
so
minutes
much.
and 2 questions, just an FYI.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Stiggers. I go to Spencer Center. And a question I have for you is, in your experience, like in your Detroit school district, how have you ensured that district budget practices create equitable opportunities for students?
Great question. So, I think it's important, and the board members that are here have heard me say this before, but I think that your budget or the way that you spend your money identifies your priorities. So, what are you the most interested in? It should show up in your budget. When we think about equity, we're thinking about first equality. Are we at least giving everybody the same thing? Because in some instances, we're not giving everybody the same thing. So, that's the first equality. And then in equity, are we giving then those that need more because they need more? So I really think, again, this is one of those questions where it goes back to looking at the current practices. What's already happening, right? Where are we right now? What's already happening in the district? How is it aligned to the expectations from the state? Because we do have state guidance that we are bound to. And then from that, how are we then changing those things within the current district? I will say that the state processes in Ohio are changing just a bit. They're going to they're working to go to a more equitable funding model for schools, which then gives schools more flexibility in how they're able to determine, how they spend the money within the district to address the student. So for example, that's the kind of equitable budgeting that I've worked in Duval County, my entire career, because we recognize that students or students that have different types of needs, there need to be more in schools that are addressing those students as well. So it's not quite there yet. I know there are some concerns about the model in Ohio, but it's the beginning of at least acknowledging, that there need to be differences. So starting with asking the questions, seeing where we are, and then from there doing the necessary work to make changes. Thank you.
So hopefully our last question can really help us to identify who you are outside of an education sector. So we would like to know, what was the last major lie you told? How did it affect those around you? And how did you make amends afterwards, if you can do that in that time?
Okay, I think you said, what was the last major lie I told? Great. Okay, so I pride myself on really being honest and honest to a fault, right? But, but, so last month, no, December, me and some of my friends, we went on a trip. We went on a trip, we went on a trip before winter break and before the Christmas break. So when we came back, we decided, all of us, because of all of the food that we ate, we decided that all of us needed to collectively go on a diet. Okay, everybody. Not just diet, because I'm big on a lifestyle change, not just diet, but we needed to do something to focus on the fact that we had eaten all of this food and we were sure that somebody had gained some weight, right? So how are we going to do that? Because we all live in different places. All of us are in different states. So we decided that we were going to get on the scale and take pictures of our weight on the scale. And then we would monitor that for 30 days and we would come back and talk about it, right? My scale was broken. My scale just didn't work. Something was wrong with the scale, because when I got on the scale, it showed that I was like 8 pounds over where I know that I was before I went on the trip. The scale was broken. It wasn't me. It wasn't the food that I ate while I was on the trip. So I shared with them. So they said, okay, right? Everybody else has given their weight and you haven't given yours. And I said, my scale is broken. And they said, we don't believe you. And I said, you don't have to believe me, but my scale is broken. But what I did do, because my scale really was broken, but I really had gained more weight than I should have. So I went and got a new scale. I did. I ordered a new scale. I ordered it from Amazon. It came in the mail, and it was one of the digital ones, because my other scale was one of the old scales. It didn't have the digital. It was horrible, right? It was broken. I ordered the new scale. I got on the scale, and when the scale came, I got on the scale, and I sent them a picture of my weight. It was actually 1 month after the first picture. So the weight that I had gained while I was gone, it was already gone. But I did what they asked me to do. So that's what I did. And that is a true story.
Dr. Wright, thank you so much. We really appreciate the chance to connect with you. And I just want to commend this incredible group of students who crafted every one of these questions for you and for the candidates, and really appreciated the chance to get a sense from you about your leadership and approach to the work in areas that matter to them. So we wish you incredible luck in the rest of this process. I know it's been an intense day and you've got more intensity to come. So thank you again for being here and for your service in Detroit as well. We appreciate it.
Do I get to ask one question?
If you can keep it at 30 seconds.
I'm going to ask the question while I put the microphone down. So
Perfect.
if there was one thing that you could say to me that you're the most proud of for this school district, what would it be? Awesome. And my time. Thank you so much. Thank you. It was great meeting each of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. As a reminder, as the next group comes in, if you're looking for closed captioning options, you can click on the sprocket for the settings located in the bottom right corner of your screen. You can turn on the closed captioning feature. You can also choose the language if you need it interpreted into a different language to be read in the drop-down menu. Thank you.
All right, team, I know this is a long time to be seated, and we are honored to welcome Dr. Marlon Stiles into the room. And Dr. Stiles, hello, hello. Good to see you again. And to those of you who are joining us in the live stream, would encourage you to check out the community survey, which is available on the district website. That's an opportunity for you to share your feedback about candidates, and we welcome all of your thoughts and input. So as soon as Dr. Stiles makes his way around the room and greeting students, I'm happy to hand facilitation over to Kylie Bridgeman, who is our student leader facilitating the next portion of the process.
Students, remember we have a new mic passer. Please be kind to them and raise your hand so they can figure out who's asking which questions. Thank you.
All right, Kylie, whenever you're ready.
Right. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Kylie Bridgeman. I'm the senior class president at Walnut Hills High School, and I welcome you to the student interview panel. We believe Student Voice has a monumental spot in this process, and we thank you for taking this time with us today. Today's interview will be live streamed so that the public can interact with our conversation, and we do ask that you attempt to keep your answers to questions in 3 minutes or less so that we can ask you all of we intend to. Again, thank you for your time, and we look forward to having you speak with us today and spending this time together. Thank you.
Okay, and now
May
Seth
I ask who the
Copens.
timekeeper is?
All right, and now Seth will have the opportunity to share a little bit just about what the process was for planning and for formulating questions.
Yeah, so the planning process was pretty involved. We underwent an anti-bias training, so we're all like professional interviewers now. And we also curated questions based on all of our values and beliefs as students of Cincinnati Public Schools. So all the questions that you're going to hear really represent our values. And yeah, so I hope that you'll respond to them to the best of your ability and to really represent what you believe in.
Right, and Edward Johnson is going to be our question facilitator for this round, and he'll explain what to expect in terms of how students will be posing questions.
So we spent a bunch of time concocting these questions. I'm not exactly sure what I'm supposed to say. I am the question facilitator. Okay, what exactly am I supposed to explain?
Yeah, all right, so Edward, just explain how students will be posing questions.
Oh, so we'll be asking you one of our questions. Each student here gets a different question, and at the end, we want to speak to you individually about our own questions, or we'll ask you if you have any questions for us. So first, we'll start off with the first question from Ashley here.
Thank
Hi,
you.
I'm
Perfect.
Ashley Carlin. I am a senior at SCPA. I've been in the district since kindergarten. So we have a major question for you. This is going to set the tone for this whole interview. So don't stress out. I'm ready. Let's go. I'm excited about this one. Knowing what you do about our district, since you're from Middletown, you know, you near us, why do you want to be superintendent of CPS? Like, is this a stepping stone for you? Is this like your dream job you've been wanting? Like, what is it about? Fantastic question. First of all, excited to meet everyone. There's one session I've been excited about. It's been the opportunity to sit and have conversation with the students of Cincinnati Public Schools. So really appreciate and value your time today. Looking forward to some very deep dialogue. To answer your question, no such thing as a stepping stone, right? For me, as a dream job, yes, be able to serve children. Really, I have really thrived on the opportunity to get to meet as many folks as I can from Cincinnati Public Schools. And if anything, the passion that I felt throughout the day has really motivated me and really accelerated my interest in the district. When you ask about why Cincinnati Public Schools, just look around the room. You talked about values and beliefs. That's something I pride myself on, is really leaning in on my values and beliefs. And that centers on the fact that I believe that all students can and will be successful. Period, end of story. A staunch advocate for children, all children in public education. And I really believe that I have the capabilities and the capacity and the passion to serve you as a student body, Cincinnati Public Schools, no matter what neighborhood you come from, no matter what you represent or what your passions or dreams in life may be. No such thing as a stepping stone. If anything, what attracts me to come here are the folks that are sitting in this room and the dreams that you have, and for me to come and try to find a way, whatever that may be, as a superintendent, as a partner, as a mentor, whatever it may be, to have a positive influence on the student body, and more importantly, provide opportunities for you specifically as students, stepping stone that you need in life to make your dreams come true. It is a journey. I understand that, but I take a lot of pride and passion in being able to serve children of all ages, kindergarten through 12th grade and beyond, and be that black male role model that students are looking for to make a difference in their life. Really appreciate the question. I'm excited for the dialogue today.
All right, Dr. Stiles, we're going to switch to kind of look at a science-based question. So do you think that the current guidelines that CPS has in place to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 require revision due to the recent staff shortages and student absences resulting from infection in the recent weeks, specifically in the mindset of a potential future student vaccine mandate?
Here's what I know. This pandemic has been stressful for everyone. Whether you're an infant and you don't know how to talk, it's been stressful for you. Whether you are 95 years old, it's been stressful for you. These are difficult times that we definitely face. We're not through the pandemic yet. What I know in this particular circumstance is that input from stakeholders definitely is what makes the biggest difference. To take time and create conversations amongst different diverse student groups, faculty groups, community groups, allows us to gain insight and input from as many people as we possibly can. Isolated decision making, no matter what the topic may be, pandemic related or not, isolated decision making is not good for the whole, right? And that's culturally not what we want in our community, and culturally not what we want The city of Cincinnati never less the district. So I would invite opportunities in the community throughout the district to gather different groups, right? Have that conversation ongoing at the decision-making table, such as this environment right here, to lead us to what that decision may be. My job is to make recommendations, right? Fact, superintendent's job to make those recommendations, and I welcome that opportunity. But that does not happen in isolation. My practice has and always will be gather input from as many as possible and have that inform my decision-making moving forward. Some may be in favor of certain decisions, some may not. But what I know is that safety is the utmost important thing when it comes to the pandemic, more or less making sure that our schools are open 5 days a week. I do not know how to answer that question about a vaccine mandate as it relates to students. I would have to spend time speaking with students in order to formulate the opinion for that. I can't make a decision for students without taking time to really engage the diverse student body that's represented here and throughout the district to really guide my thinking. So not to punt on the question, but I want to share with you my leadership style. And to take a position on something right now without having gathered input would not be consistent with what my beliefs are. Checking in with my timekeeper. Are we staying on 3 minutes?
Okay, so you know how you got them leather church shoes on and the dapper suit? That's how you express yourself, right? In your opinion.
Socks on too, with the bacon and
Yes,
eggs.
yes, sir. I like them.
I didn't know if you saw the bacon and eggs or not.
Yes, I love my breakfast too.
That game has to be on point, I promise.
Yes, sir. In your opinion, how can students' expression be elevated within our education system, and how will you encourage students to embrace and express their individuality? And speaking on that, what is your opinion on the student dress code?
Expression, right? We are here to serve children, right? Our bigs and our littles. Does not matter. We're here to serve children. I believe that part of our job as adults is to inspire and amplify student voice, advocacy, and dreams. The last 20 years as an educator, it's been my mission to do those three things exactly. In my current position, my mission to do those three things exactly for my current student body. As a superintendent of Cincinnati Public Schools, I will continue to invest and be passionate in those specific areas. When it comes to voice, I'm not sure if you've ever seen it before, but we started something last year called the C Summit. It stands for Students for Equitable Education. It's a social justice conference, 100% created and facilitated by students to create more inclusive environments at the classroom level across buildings across the nation. So my passion is about creating the conditions, let me be very specific here, create the conditions where the student body has voice, they are empowered, and it is valued in the decision-making process. My job as a superintendent is to create the conditions to where you as the students, be very specific here, have the platform that you need to express your thoughts, beliefs, dreams, hopes that you have as an individual student. Specific to the dress code, right? I don't like to wear a suit and tie. I'll be flat honest with you. If you see me outside of work, I'm wearing a hoodie, I'm wearing jogging pants, and I'm wearing gym shoes that are probably a year old, right? I enjoy that. When I come to work, I like to look professional so that I can inspire, right? I like to serve as a role model. From a student perspective, our job is to value your individual beliefs, create an environment where you have a very strong sense of belonging. Sorry, this mask makes me run out of breath. Strong sense of belonging is what I'm most passionate about, right? To create an inclusive environment across this district where every student finds themselves in an environment where they can believe in themselves and they can access any opportunity that they have accessible to them, right? It is our job to create the conditions, or remove the conditions, I should say, that really hinder your ability to have self-expression, whether that be through what you wear, or whether that be through how you act, or how you would like to voice your opinions, or opportunities you would like to pursue. From a dress code standpoint, right, that's taught all the way up. That it starts with policies. We're talking about policy. We need to take a deep look at our policies and make sure that they have no type of systemic practices in it that really hinder students from being successful. What I would encourage us to do specifically around student dress code is to start with policy. Let's gather different student groups, specific student groups, and gather some input. Do the same thing with staff, community, as well as different stakeholders across the community, and make sure that we're gathering input to really evaluate the current policy as it sits.
policy informs practice. Practice should inspire. So should policy really inspire our students to really advocate and pursue their passions in life. Man, it's perfect.
Good afternoon. My name is Simone Simmons, and I am a senior at Walnut Hills High School. And my question for you is, from your perspective, what is your plan for diversifying student curriculum as well as staff?
I believe, and I've said this in our great question, first of all, thank you for that. I've said it in all three sessions with the adults that we've interviewed with today in the different panels. It is my belief that our students across this nation, they need more access to Black male educators. There are several districts throughout the country that are leading the way with this. For example, Richland 2 in South Carolina, Superintendent Baron Davis. I would like to try to replicate some different efforts that have proven to be successful at the national level. I believe that we should unify our efforts today to really entertain the idea of increasing the percentage of our classroom educators specifically who are Black males. You think about the impact of a positive Black male figure as a teacher. And I'll be very specific in the position I'm speaking about. The impact on that on youth has proven to be significant. So I would encourage us to not just rethink and reimagine how we recruit and retain our staff, but to be very specific in some of our strategic priorities around diversifying our staff. Diversity is nice. I would like for us to be very intentional about how we're diversifying, and that would lead us to really embrace a campaign around Black male educators. You also asked the question, what was the second half of that question? I apologize.
About diversifying the staff.
Yes, the diversity around the staff is absolutely important. But more importantly, besides just diversifying the staff, is shifting the practices inside the classroom so that students are able to better access the learning environment. What I would encourage us to do is to think about changing adult instructional behaviors so students have a stronger sense of belonging, like I said before, but also have the ability to access the learning inside the classroom. So I would encourage us to think about not just diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, which is a hot topic in education, to not think about DEI-related programs or trainings. I've said earlier today, I would like for us to think about professional learning for the adults in the educational system to build a stronger sense of self-awareness that transitions and translates into changes in instructional practices from our adults so classrooms become more inclusive. Right? That is a different shift in mentality, right? Oftentimes we bring in a trainer, the trainer stands up here and talks all day long, session's over, and then we hope that that translates to better opportunities in the classroom. But professional learning that moves our staff, that moves the adults, whether we're diverse or not, moves our adults in changing instructional behaviors will be my intent. Have some of those current practices in our strategic plan in Middletown City Schools. More importantly, there are effective models across the country we really could explore and really customize here locally to make sure we're serving the students inside Cincinnati Public Schools.
Thank you.
I'm going to sneak a water break in while you walk extra slow over for that question.
Good morning. My name is Zenobia Tucker, and I'm a senior at Hughes High School. And one of the current problems in our building is 70% of my class is not graduation ready. And most of that came from them not doing what they needed to do in previous years, but still being promoted to the next grade level. And so a lot of the seniors are struggling trying to do Edgenuity before April, but they're also still failing their current senior classes. So my question to you is, how will you support secondary students to succeed academically earlier so that they're not doing credit recovery as seniors and not graduating on time? Secondly, how will grades reflect how students are actually learning?
I just want to give you credit. That's probably one of the realest questions that have been asked the entire process that I've been part of at CPS for this position. Let's talk about what students need, right? This conversation starts much earlier than the secondary level, right? This is a cultural conversation to make sure that we as a school system are servicing our children as best we possibly can. So the question that you just asked is students who are not being successful. The real reason that we need to dig into is why, right? Let's explore those systemic reasons why. We're not talking about one child, you're talking about 70% of children, student body inside one school. One grade. One grade. Okay, senior class in the building. So what I believe we need to do is to create different conditions for students to access different opportunities to be successful, right? Whether that's a traditional pathway the students enjoy as far as a sequence of courses, right? Algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, all the things you're shaking your head, yes. Or do we need to create some new creative, inclusive innovations that really get you fired up about what you want to be when you grow up? I'm 44 years old. I still don't know how to answer that question. What I do know is oftentimes students want to go explore different pathways, right, to make their dreams come true. That is a unique way for us now to mash, right, workforce, career experiences, future dreams with how we teach content, required courses. So what I would encourage our school system to do is to find some inclusive innovation ways in which we can dream up, with students included, dream up how we can navigate requirements for graduation, but more importantly, build those life skills, those durability skills that translate to success post-graduation. What do you want to be when you grow up? Real quick, what do you want to be when you grow up? I love it. I hope everybody who's watching this live stream heard her say she wants to be an orthopedic surgeon for the NFL. But why can't we create those career-based experiences for you as you take Algebra 1, as you take physical science, so on and so forth? Think about how excited we would be to learn if the connections about why we are learning what we're learning speak to what we want to be when we grow up, right? You're shaking your head, I'm just as fired as you. Get fired up just like you, right? So when we cover slope-intercept form, remember that old day? Y equals mx plus b, right? But when we cover slope-intercept form, what if we create some conditions, some connections to learning to really connect you to what you want to be when you grow up, right? Some people call that personalization. Some people call it customization, whatever tag we want to give it. But it's about focusing on our children and making sure we can relate culturally the learning to the experiences that they want to have when they grow up. It would be our desire that that really inspires students to really invest in their futures and that translate to the real-time learning that they're experiencing. Yes, there are opportunities where we need to recover credits. I get it, right? It's our job to design programs to where the recovery efforts truly translate to students catching back up. More importantly, students getting a quality education as they try to recover some of that learning. The pandemic was real, right? The impact was not just on Cincinnati Public. It was not just on Middletown City. The pandemic was real for students across the country. So it's my understanding that districts across the country receive ESSER funds. I don't know how many ESSER funds the district received, but I would enjoy the opportunity to co-design a recovery plan with the community and the student body and the staff about how to catch up from the impact of the pandemic, but more importantly, dream up some of those fun, exciting things that we spoke about earlier. And good luck, as long as you're an orthopedic surgeon for the Bengals, right?
Hello, my name is Edward Johnson. I'm a senior at Aiken High School, and my question pertains to physical health, because at our school we have students of different faiths, vegetarian, vegan, diabetic students. And then my question for you is, what will you do to make our nutrition choices more robust and healthier in terms of school lunches, for food for families that need additional support?
First of all, my parents and several of my aunts and uncles graduated from Aiken High School as well. They talk about the Falcons all the time. That's why I love purple. I do want to talk about healthy eating, right? I don't like vegetables. I don't like fruit. As me personally, took a lot of spankings when I was little because of vegetables. But what I will say, to encourage a healthy lifestyle, right? Not just healthy eating, but a healthy lifestyle is the obligation of us as adults, right? Community and school system. What I would encourage us to do is really focus on the needs of our community, focus on the needs of our children, and really talk about the benefits of a healthy lifestyle, right? Education systems should not just be purely about academic experiences, right? We need to thrive as a school system, really educate and support and serve, right? Keyword serve, the whole child. There are social emotional supports that I know our children across this country really are asking us as adults for, to help you process and deal with all the things that are on your chest, your pressure you every single day. So the whole child supports for social emotional, absolutely critical. Lifestyle type behaviors are what we want to encourage as part of our school system, so that it translates not just to your behaviors present day as a youth, but it translates to when you have your family, right? And you're teaching your young ones healthy lifestyles as they grow inside your household. Ways that we have supported students and families as it relates to access to healthy meals. I'll give you one quick example, Middletown City School District. Again, this is not my idea. I'm not taking credit. I just enjoyed being on a team that really values service. That's the core of my beliefs as a superintendent, service. We talked about making sure our families have access to healthy meals, not just during the school day, but outside the school day as well, year round. We enjoy what we call a good old-fashioned midi meal machine. We have a very creative branded food truck that travels across the community. Chef Jerry is an unbelievable man, really excited about what he does, but it pushes out healthy meals outside of the school day to our community. Our food service department makes sure our students have food bags. Last week when we canceled for 2 days because of snow, they worked night and day to make sure we were able to push out meal bags for 2 days, starting on Monday, so they were ready to go home with schools on Wednesday. It's what matters, right? We need to serve our community. We need to serve our children, and making sure they have access to healthy meals is absolutely critical. Also know that there are wellness centers inside Cincinnati Public Schools. We need to make sure that the access to those centers are accessible for all, not for some. But if it is a success model, we need to make sure we scale that across the district to serve as many people as we can. Healthy lifestyles is important. Part of that is healthy living. We need to make sure we really value servicing the whole child.
Good afternoon. My name is Daquan Ford. I'm a graduating senior from Charter High School. And our next question to you is, what have you done to implement more comprehensive mental health support for students in your current role? And what do you envision doing in CPS to make sure services are available for students, families, and staff?
Talked about my suit, right? We talked about my suit. Look at that. We're sharp today. We're really sharp today. Mental health supports for children. I want to give credit to our staff, right? I'm a people person. I enjoy supporting ideas that come from people. And the culture of our current school district is about people, and it's something I believe in. We have individuals in Middletown City Schools who share the same belief I have around supporting the whole child, even socially, emotionally. We are enjoying the presence of a Hope Squad at Middletown High School, student-led suicide prevention program led by children. We also this year, again, credit to others, we're enjoying for the first time having a Hope Squad at our middle school as well. We unfortunately have lost some children in the past due to suicide, so we are excited to have that program there to support our children, and to more importantly, have that program be student-led. In addition to that, we talked about allocation resources earlier to make sure that they're equitable, but based on service needs of our children. We're enjoying for the first time, Middletown City Schools, full-time counselors in all of our elementary school buildings. Prior to ESSER funds, we did not have that capacity to do so. We made that a top priority when those funds became accessible, but it's all based off the needs of our children. Moving forward, as we talk about that here in Cincinnati Public Schools, I would have to evaluate current service models. More importantly, hear what some of those social, emotional, mental well-being needs are from our children. Really invite you to the table to be part of a decision-making body, right? Again, I want to talk about leadership behaviors. Invite your voice to the table, really inspire some decision-making, and more importantly, co-design some of those supports that we would come up with for the students in the school district. I could rattle off ideas for days about how to support and how to put those supports in place for children. But I think culturally what we would like to grow here in Cincinnati Public Schools, where all stakeholders, especially students, are sitting at the table to co-design the solution, right? I could say you need X, Y, and Z based off of what you say. But if we're co-designing that support, co-designing that position, co-designing that custom solution, really support the mental health needs that the student body has, no matter what school it may be in, or if different schools have different needs, we can customize the solutions for the individual school buildings. That's where the magic happens. And more importantly, that's where the students get the support, and then that leads to the question we had earlier, more children being successful, making their dreams come true, graduating on time, prepared for life, and being successful when they walk across the stage post-graduation.
My name is Seth Copins. I am a junior at SCPA, and your next question is, on Schoology and Power School, students are required to use their legal name unless given explicit permission from their parents. This can potentially lead to embarrassing and sometimes harmful situations, especially with transgender students who use their chosen name with their friends, but their teacher calls them by the name on PowerSchool. How will you respond to this issue?
Yeah, so part of CSUM, and if I can go back to that as well, we had transgender students who put on a session for educators about different aspects of that exact topic. We had educators that did not understand why pronouns were so important in that particular student-led professional development. So what I would say is we go back to policy, right? We go back to policy and practice. And more importantly, we talk culturally about what's most important for the school district. Inclusive environments is something I've said since we walked in the room. Making sure that every child has a strong sense of belonging is what is most important. I know the district has an anti-racism policy, but it's important for us also to bring children into the room to talk about policies to address the topic that you're building up as well. I'm not talking about legal things or anything of that nature, but I know that there are transgender students who need to have better environments so they feel like they belong. Students yearn for it all the time, transgender or not. I know what is most important is that we understand what the needs are, and we create conditions so that kids feel like they are welcome. Specifically for our transgender students, we want to make sure we bring specific student groups into the room. I would welcome the opportunity to have a room where it is safe for our transgender students to come in collectively from across the district and provide us with feedback and guidance. Hopefully that input that they will provide us in those real-time experiences would allow us to understand what the needs are. And I'm talking about this from an adult perspective. That should inspire our practices. That should inspire our policies. More importantly, it should inspire us on how we need to shift culturally as a district to make sure that we are more accepting, that we are more inviting, and more importantly, we're creating those environments that are inclusive for all of our students. It is easy to say welcoming for all, equity for all, strong sense of belonging. But it's more importantly, culturally, to be more sensitive and culturally to make sure we're more inclusive and we're creating conditions where students feel welcome. So you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? That is just not for African American students. Diversity, equity, inclusion is not just race related, right? Equity and inclusion relates to all children. And we start with the question, which students are not being served, right? Which students do not have a strong sense of belonging, and then we need to strategically dig into the issues as the reasons why, come up with strategic solutions collectively to make sure that we address those issues that have surfaced. If that is something that we need to dig in, that needs to become a priority. But more importantly, we have to invite our transgender student body to the table to have some real safe, authentic dialogue about how we can improve in that area. I welcome the opportunity to do that, whether it's a 12th grade student or a 3rd grade student, a kindergarten student. Make sure the children and their families are part of the conversations what's most important.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Isaiah Stiggers, and I go to Spencer Center. And my question for you is, in your experience with like your past experiences, you said Middletown School District, how have you ensured that district budget practices create equitable opportunities for students?
Process. I'm a process-driven person. Oftentimes, I respond with there's a process. Right? People say there's a process for everything. But your question gets down to leadership practices, process, and more importantly, alignment. At the core of that is the good old-fashioned word, communication. As we go through the process, and I know Cincinnati Public is ready for this, as was listed in the profile, the next strategic plan, right, as we lay out our strategic priorities and the direction of the district moving forward, it is absolutely critical. We've done this in previous strategic plans. I want to give credit to Randy Bertram, Treasurer of Middletown City Schools. We have aligned fiscal priorities to the academic and strategic priorities inside of our district strategic plan. For example, we kicked off a makerspace, a maker movement inside of our district 4 or 5 years ago. All 10 schools, we had no presence or no space, resources, materials, or curriculum as related to maker experiences for our children. District our size, we wanted to make sure that all 7 of our elementary schools systemically had maker experiences in the building that would lead us to some curricular experiences as they transition to secondary. skip that part of the process. As we talked about that priority, yes, it costs money to be able to support initiatives such as that. As we talked about our priorities systemically, we matched those up financially. We started shifting funds from different buckets and allocations to make sure it supported the pillars inside of our strategic plan. At the core of that was engagement, participation from our fiscal leader, and communication from all parties to make sure that we had clear understanding of what the priorities may be. As we transition from school to school in implementation in different phases, the financials were already aligned inside the 5-year forecast to support each school as they phased in that particular initiative. Had there not been co-design, had there not been planning, had there not been strategic efforts to really think through ahead of time what we wanted to accomplish and prioritize, financials would not have been in support for that. The allocations would have been spent traditionally in line items that they were previously targeted for, but it allow us to make sure that our priorities were being taken care of. Present day, we celebrate that all 7 of our elementaries and Middletown City schools have maker experiences for all children. Resources are provided for all children. Not only were we able to execute those priorities, we also are able to, keyword, sustain the initiative so that the powerful learning experience is present for students. Thank you, timekeeper.
We have one more question and 5 more minutes left until the session has ended.
So fortunately, we've had a lot of time to hear about yourself as an educator and the space that you have created for students within education. But we really would like to get to know more of you and the person that you are beyond the classroom. So our question for you is, what is the last major lie you told? How did it affect those around you? And how did you make amends afterwards?
Ooh, the last major lie. Okay, I'm going to come clean right now, right? I am a diehard Packers fan. Anybody else here a Packers fan? See? Right? Someone asked me the other day how I felt about the NFL playoffs. Right? This is a major lie of mine. If you're a family member, you understand where I'm coming from right now. I've been wearing Bengals gear, Spirit wear, the last 3 weeks. I have found a way to get the Bengals games. I have been screaming "Who Dey" left and right, right? I know you didn't expect this answer, but it is a major lie of mine. I had to come clean. I'm sorry. With that being said, how did I make amends, right? I have supported the hometown team through this exciting last 8 weeks as I watched this team catch on fire. More importantly, what I've learned is that there is a deep love for sports teams in Cincinnati that I previously did not know. I'm a baseball fan, so I get it with the Reds. My father's a baseball man. We love the Reds through and through. But I didn't know how deep and real that passion was for the Cincinnati Bengals until recently. I'm not saying I'm a diehard Bengals fan. I'm not saying I'm lying moving forward, but what I'm saying is I've discovered a new passion that people have for the hometown. I can now say that I'm not a diehard fan, but I am a fan of the Cincinnati Bengals because, and I will share this, because we have something in common, and that's fight. That is press. Some people call it you got to have that dog in you. And I believe the Bengals absolutely have, and they got a great shot come Monday night. It's been inspiring to watch the community really rally behind something, and the something has been the passion of the players and the coaches in the organization. I'm excited to be cheering for them come Monday, but I have to admit it started out as a lie because I had some inspiration from a different previous player. I don't know if you remember Sterling Sharp way back in the day, number 84, wide receiver for the Packers. I just wanted to be like him when I grew up. He was a black male. He spoke very well. He was so articulate and well-dressed on camera. I just wanted to be like him when I grew up. I fell in love with the Packers ever since. But present day, really becoming addicted to the passion of this community as it relates to the Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know the song, but I feel very comfortable saying "Who Dey."
Oh, Dr. Stiles, that was a great response and a good bookend on that part of the interview. So you have a couple of minutes to ask questions of the students. If you have one or two, we definitely have time.
Sorry, what was that? 2 minutes. Hopefully, a lot of people watching. I don't have questions, but I want to give you the floor. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the COVID, we're going virtual on a shortage of teachers. Will going virtual always be the next step?
Here's what I can say. I've been very adamant about this in my current role. It is important to me that we keep our children in school 5 days a week. We can anticipate my hope moving forward that we as a profession, that we really take the challenge to keep our schools open 5 days a week for our children. There are times where temporary shutdowns need to happen, and I truly recognize that. It is my hope that we consider making building-based decisions in regards to those temporary closures as much as we possibly can. Just because there's an outbreak in one spot doesn't mean we all need to shut down. I would hope that we can evaluate some things on a really deep level and on an individual basis to hopefully guide some of our decision making better. But I want to go back to what I originally said. It is critical that we keep our schools open 5 days a week while being as safe as we possibly can. Heard a lot of students say, I do not like remote learning. It does not work for me. So I hope that we can find a way to navigate the rest of this pandemic and really keep our schools open. I did want to give our children the floor. I hope 1 million people watched this last 2 minutes. I don't have questions for you. Hopefully, once you're superintendent, we get a chance to have a Q&A session and have some dialogue. What I would enjoy right now is just sitting back and listening what you want to be when you grow up. We had a chance to hear from one person earlier. However many minds and voices we can hear in the next 2 minutes, I just would like to hear about your dreams and what you want to be when you grow up.
So I do apologize. We do have buses waiting, but we will have to wrap up the session.
So, Dr. Stiles, that's an awesome
Scream
question.
as loud as you can. Hopefully somebody hears it. Yeah, say it like you mean it. Come on, you got to say it like you mean it. I want to win it louder, but you got to say it like me. You want to what when you grow up? Come on now. Good, roll with it. Who else? Nope. Love it. If I'm your superintendent, I'll guarantee you an interview. Yes. Whenever time runs out, we got to roll for buses. Let's do it. But until then, let's go.